Good morning, everybody. Let me just give this. All right, cool. So we're in. So this week we are going to be talking about rocks. One of my favorite things. So we are going to talk a little bit about rocks, what they are, what they're made from, how they are made, and the earthly processes that go into that. So our objectives for the week, one is to describe the three kinds of rock. There are three main. There's a bajillion different kinds, but I'm only going to ask you to remember three. Um, Explain how each type is formed. So you will, for each one of those three, be able to tell me the process that made that rock. And we will compare and contrast the properties of each. We're not going to go into too much detail, but I want you to be able to at least look at some kind of rocks and maybe tell the difference. And then the last one is form some questions about our main question, which is how does water change our world? We're going to have to talk a little bit about rocks, then we'll go back to water. Um, so I turned the first three into questions. Pay attention. This will be your quiz later this week. So what are the three kinds of rocks? If you can answer all of these questions, you get all your points for the week. Um, Two, how does each type form? Three, where can we find each kind? And four, what are the characteristics of each type and how are these related to how they form? So that one's going to be a little tough. You're going to have to really listen if you want to answer number four. Um, So rocks. What the heck are what are rocks anyways? So rocks are actually the majority of matter on Earth. So most of the Earth, the whole planet, most of the solar system is all rock. Actually, the same kinds of rocks. They are made from two main minerals, silicon and oxygen. Those are elements. If you remember back to chemistry, there are small amounts of other things mixed into them and different ratios of each. So that will make the different kinds of rocks along with some other stuff. And they are formed over millions of years through what are called geological processes. Geological. Geo is anything to do with rocks. Geo is the ancient Greek word for rock. So geological processes are any rock based processes or any process that involves rocks. So there are three main types. We're going to go through our first one today, then we'll leave it, and then we'll go over some other stuff. So our first one is really cool. It's called igneous rock. I like saying that word, Igneous. Igneous. It is formed when magma cools down and solidifies. So magma is just liquefied rock. And remember, we talked water can go from solid to liquid to gas. Rock can also do that. It takes a lot more heat to melt rock. I mean, think about it. If you take a lighter and a rock, it's not really going to do anything. I mean, it's going to get hot, but it's not going to melt. But if you were to take some sort of crazy scientific blowtorch, you could melt rocks, and scientists do it. So, but then we can cool it back down and it turns back into rock. So this can happen on the surface or underground. And those are the two main kinds of igneous rock. Real quick, we'll talk about actually, this is a geological process, a rock based process, or something that has to do with rocks. So the islands of Hawaii are slowly growing over time, over millions and millions of years. They grow about a couple feet every 10 years or something like that. So if we look here, this is a cliff on the edge of the island of Hawaii. There's a boat full of people. You can go take tours. I've never been, but I've heard it's really cool. In the middle of the island of Hawaii, there's a big volcano, and it's constantly spitting out lava. Not enough to, like kill everybody around it, but enough that there's rivers of lava that flow down the island. They get to the edge and they fall into the water. The water cools them down and it turns them back into rock. Slowly, that rock piles up and it forms an island. So, over hundreds of millions of years, the island of Hawaii was slowly spit out by a volcano, basically. I think is just so cool. So there are two main divisions of igneous rock. The first one is what's called extrusive. X is, think like external or outside. It's just rock that forms just like I just talked about. The magma comes out of the earth and it turns into slowly cools down or quickly cools down and turns into rock. Um, it's usually being exposed to air or water, which carries all the heat away, or scientists who trip and fall into it. It's another one. Um, so don't be that scientist. So, and then intrusive rocks form internal or inside of the crust of the earth, underground. They cool over thousands or millions of years, and we don't really get to see them very much on the. You've probably never seen intrusive igneous rocks, but scientists have, miners have, anybody who goes underground. If you've been deep underground in Minecraft, you might have seen some intrusive igneous rocks down there. I haven't played in a while and I don't really remember. So this is a figure talking about each or showing each way that this can happen. So underground is full of magma. There, like if once you get deep enough underground, all of the rock melts and it turns into it's a giant ocean of magma. Remember that's our mantle. That lava from the mantle will melt its way up some places through the crust and basically explode out onto the surface. That's a volcano in a nutshell. And then that will form this extrusive igneous rock. The other way that this can happen is that it can come up, but it cannot quite make it all the way to the surface, and it can get caught in these underground magma pools. These happen all the time. They just sometimes maybe the rock on top is extra hard and the magma can't get through, or maybe the magma just isn't all that hot and it can't melt all the way through. Whatever. But you will find intrusive igneous rocks will form deep underground. So this is a couple of examples. These are all igneous rocks. Granite is an intrusive igneous rock. It forms deep underground very, very slowly, and it is incredibly hard. Granite is one of the hardest rocks next to diamond on Earth. That's why so many people use it in countertops. It's almost impossible to melt, and it's incredibly hard. Pumice is the second one. Pumice is actually very soft. It's a volcanic rock. It has a rough texture, and it's usually very lightly colored. It forms during volcanic eruptions when the lava cools semi quickly, and it gets all these little. You can see there's these little dots in it. Those are actually little. They were air bubbles in the lava, and when it cooled and hardened, the air got out, but it left little holes behind. Same thing with basalt. So basalt is generally the same as pumice. It's a little darker. It has little bigger air holes, and it forms this basalt will form as the lava flows down the volcano in those flows. The last one, for all my Minecraft heads out there, I know y'all know what this is. It's obsidian. It is a strong rock that forms when lava cools very quickly, like flash cools, like when it falls into the water and it cools very, very quickly. This rock, actually, I have a piece right here. It has no crystals in it, and it's actually a type of glass. So this was glass that was made out of lava. How cool is that? It is incredibly sharp. That's what one of the properties of obsidian is. It is. This is a little piece I have. I've cut myself on this so many times. That's why I try not to hand them out in class. But obsidian is incredibly sharp, but very brittle. It breaks very easily. Granite is incredibly hard. I can take a piece of granite and smack it on the ground and it would probably be fine. If I took this and I threw it at the ground, it would shatter like a piece of glass. So again, these are properties. These are differences between them. We will talk about more kinds of rock tomorrow, and we will kind of talk about their properties. Then we'll start to compare and talk about the differences between them. All right. So what you have to do for today is there is a reading, and there will be a short Google form quiz. And I hope you all have a great day.